Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the digital meeting. Welcome all to the digital meetings in electronic games, one of ThinkTech Initiative's programs in partnership with the Saudi Federation of Electronic Sports in the season of Gamers Without Borders. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Bاسم, المحمدي, the Chief Operation Officer in RAS Group and the founder of Excitement, the game truck company. ThinkTech Initiative is an umbrella of the strategic awareness projects that is launched by the Saudi Ministry of Communication and Information Technology in cooperation with its gaming version with the Gamers Without Borders season to anticipate development in the world of electronic games and spread knowledge to the community of modern sport and attract all those interested to position Saudi Arabia as one of the forefronts of innovative countries in the field of electronic games and achieving the goals of Vision 2030. Today, we are talking about video games as a hobby and work with our guest, Wabron, Mيتشل, محمد, الماجد, and نواف الدغموش. Before we start, we just want to remind our audience that all questions will be welcome in the Q&A or the chat side of the Zoom. First, we will start with you, Wabron. Would you introduce yourself to us, please?
Hi, my name is Wabron Mيتشل. I've been in esports since about 2011, doing a pretty wide range of things. I started as a commentator and slowly worked my way through production, a little bit of journalism, went over into coaching, and now I'm working on more operation sides of, a bunch of different projects, from events to teams and a couple of more innovative things along the way.
Great, nice to meet you, Wabron. محمد, would you tell us about yourself, please?
I'm Mohammed الماجد, the founder and CEO of Warrior. We established Warrior in 2017. Till now, we won a lot of tournaments, more than 300 tournaments. And this is Mohammed.
MashaAllah. We will ask you more about the trophies behind you. Nواف,
Yeah,
please.
sure.
Hi, I'm Nواaf الدغموش. I am a senior editor at a website called True Gaming, the leading Middle Eastern video game website that covers video games. And I've been within the industry as a writer and a journalist for the past 9 years.
Amazing, mashallah. Great. It sounds a great and interesting session. With no further ado, we will start our first topic about how to develop a hobby into a profession. How do you think that would be done, Wabron? Sorry, I'll start with Mohammed.
So about the hobby to professional, it's a long story, but let's say about the casual player and esports scene. When you talk about the hobby, when a player is spending a lot of time playing video games like Fortnite or PUBG Mobile or Overwatch, he just spamming a lot of time. He will never know he will be a professional or no. Some characters are like, you say, competing characters, want to be the best, always want to win. These kind of characters, they can be a professional player, but they can't found themselves because if they didn't try it. So basically, like the professional player at the moment, and our professional player in Warrior also, when they start playing, then they never expect they will be a professional player some days. After practicing, like spending more like 5 hours, 6 hours per day, spamming these games, they will find themselves in highest level than the other player they're playing or spamming 1 hour or 2 hours per day. So this player who's spending a lot of hours and take it competing and winning tournament, they can be take it a professional and make it a career for themselves. And at the moment, let's say in esports scene, maybe they can take it as a part-time, not a full-time, but in a global level, they take it fully time. But as we see, in these days or these years, the esports are growth in Saudi Arabia. So basically, I think in the future, 3 years, they can make it a full-time job in our region. So basically, that's what I think about how can they start from hobby to professional.
Great. What do you think, Bron, like looking at this topic, be like developing or moving from a hobby to a profession?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Mohammed. A lot of up and coming players will start out gaining their experience and really just spending a lot of time in the game, and then eventually transitioning towards more competitive opportunities. I personally started my sort of career towards video games. I actually wanted to make games when I was younger, and I was going to school to do animation and those types of things before I got caught up in esports. And for me, it was commentary was sort of my first step. This was before we had spectator modes in a lot of games. So really, I was just commentating replays and making YouTube videos. So, you know, one of those ways to sort of take that hobby and transition it is content creation. It's learning how to either make YouTube or to stream on Twitch or to put content on TikTok, and really finding what interests you the most. As a commentator, I spent a lot of my time as sort of the statistics guy. I'd pour over numbers, I'd pour over spreadsheets, I'd build myself a lot of tools through programming so that I could, you know, advance that. And I got known when I was doing stage commentary for staring down into my notebook. I had to have the production guys in my ear yelling at me to like look up at the camera whenever I was doing that. And there's a video out there somewhere of me making a prediction about a first seed. The first seed loses in the tournament to the 16th seed, and I just throw my notebook off stage. I'm like, none of that matters anymore. And sort of that, you know, that identity, that part of my content really, you know, drove me forward to keep getting into it. So the more you care about the part that, you know, interests you from the gaming side or the content side, or, you know, whatever part of the art it is, that's where, you know, you find your focus, and then meet as many people as you can, talk to as many people as you can.
Great. So when we say profession, it's not only as a gamer, but we can be a profession in the esport industry itself, because it has so many like professions and jobs in that industry. What do you think, Nواف, about developing this hobby into a profession?
Like I can't talk about esport per se because I'm not that competitive when it comes to like taking challenges and stuff. When it comes to video games, I kind of take things very slow on my own. But I can think of it like how I started personally. Like I wrote a bunch of blogs. That was like a long time ago when you actually used to write things in the internet and people cared about reading. Everyone watches video nowadays. But that's where I started around 2010 or 2011. And I mainly kind of did that until like you just really rub shoulders against people that work within the industry, talk to them and, you know, engage with them, try to impress them with the content you create and show why you're different or what is so original about the things you do, and you'll definitely like shine through and get picked up by either like a magazine or website and newsletter thingy, like whatever. Well, no, if your content is like different and unique and has an interesting perspective, like you'll get picked up and like you'll get people will actually appreciate the content you're doing and maybe get in the limelight somehow.
Okay, great. So I just gonna ask a question. I mean, whoever wanna answer. When I would decide, when should I say I should now like take it as a full-time job or be a profession? What is the tipping point here? Like, is it certain time of is it the industry itself, if it is ready or the market is ready or not? Is it the my level of profession? When can I say it's the time to go pro?
See, in my perspective, you can take it when you want it. Okay, so if it's your goal to be a professional player, you can make it. Okay, but you have to spend hours. You have to give your focus on it, and you didn't care about the market is ready or no, because if you focus on it, if your market is not ready, you will reach the global market basically. Let's say even our markets, we are not ready and we are defeating a global team. Okay, that means it's the professional guy or the professional player he's not related to any market. He's related to the global market. So if you think you have the talent, you have the speed reaction, you have the challenge character, like there is some people, they are challengers, so they want to just win. Okay, that's the goal of that's what they want. So if you think you are that guy, and you can play also on the team, because a lot of games are dependent about teams, not about yourself. There is some individual player, so and some games are dependent about one player, but the most games are dependent about like 5 or 6 players, like Overwatch, Dota, CSGO. So you have to add some skills like playing on the team, spend more time, be a strategic guy, and choose your role. Okay, basically, because even if you want to be a professional player, you have to choose your role. You will be the leader or the IGL, the in-game leader, who's give info for each player, or you want to be the fragger, who's have a most speed reaction and just follow the call and he do his job, or you want to be the support who's supporting the whole team. So even that depends about your character. So your roles depend about your character in life, and all. Even that, if you do your role, the good things, even your team is not that much, you will find another team who will take you. If it's not in the local level, it will be in the global level.
Interesting. And that's the beauty of the esports industry. It's a global, it has no borders. So it doesn't mean if you are in a certain area in the world, you cannot react. Actually, some teams, they have players all over the world and they are playing the same team from different nationalities. This is not in any other sports, like I would say national teams, for example, which is great. So you think, Bron, that we can make a living out of being proficient in the esport industry?
Yeah, for sure. It all comes down to focus, like Muhammad said. It's all about whether or not you're willing to put in the time and the effort. And when we look at the global gaming market, the ability for people to work with everybody, people all over the world, be it from collaborations on content, be it developing games, be it playing and working with players. I myself have done the 3 a.m. call to somebody over in Asia because we had a conversation to have about a team, about a player, about, working on something. So where you are in the world, it can affect your local ability to have certain face-to-face conversations, but technology lets us work with pretty much anybody around the world. And if you're willing to put in the time, you can get into the industry at any level. You have to be willing to commit. And sometimes that might mean not making a lot of money at the start. You may need to, set that good work-life balance between, your passion, which is gaming, and your day job that pays the bills. But eventually they can equal out, and eventually you will get there. The industry is at a point, I would say globally, where I think no matter where you are in the world is possible.
Amazing. Nواف, based on your observation, is it the right time now to be a pro in the esports industry?
I think there's a lot of opportunities. Lots of teams are coming up and creating opportunities for younger people to kind of start their career, which is really cool. And that's one thing I like about the esport industry, or just as a whole, you can really start at a young age. And if you work really hard, and when you're young, you have a lot of free time, and you can kind of commit to dedicating and working hard and trying to be a really good player at a certain game. So I think as you get older in age, that's going to be more difficult. Your attention, your reflection, and your reaction time will get shorter as you grow older. But I think, more than not, you see constantly new teams, and they're constantly picking players, and as time passes by, I notice all these players look way younger than they should be. I assume they're 20 or something, but I get surprised when they're 16, 17, and they play like way better than anyone I've seen before, and it's really amazing. So yes, there are hundreds and hundreds of opportunities, and as Muhammad and Abran said, not just locally, but also if you're really good, you can be somewhere around the world and playing for some team in Europe or America or Asia.
Interesting, great. Okay, maybe we'll move to the second topic, which is the challenges that an independent developer could face. Bron, probably you have something to add or to comment on this topic.
Yeah. So, like I said, when I was in school, I'd originally wanted to make games before esports took a hold of me and painfully took over my life and destroyed my sleep schedule. But I've worked with a number of independent developers, either on their community tournaments in different ends. So I've gotten to see sort of what goes on behind the scenes to a degree. And so I've got sort of two examples. One is the struggle that the independent developer deals with when it comes to publishers, as well as large companies wanting to be involved. Often when people come up with great ideas, they often want to get bought. Two good examples from about 2014 to 2015 were Gigantic and Motiga being acquisitioned by EA and then eventually Microsoft. And then Dawngate, which was a MOBA made in about 2014 in the idea of League of Legends and Dota. Both of those games were eventually purchased by a developer that wanted them to compete within a very specific space, or a publisher. And both games kind of ended up down a difficult road. Once you start getting involved with those publishers, the money is there and the money can help you with development, but you start to lose, either it's a matter of identity or decision-making or choices. So, the benefit versus the downside of being an independent developer wanting to make your own games is you've got all the freedom in the world, but sometimes the budget becomes a constraint. The other sort of example is that freedom can be a burden if you haven't planned things properly. One of my projects, a company called Defined Culture, has an unreleased game that that's being worked on in the background. Just with a single decision as a change of part of the art style, the team working on it, I have a very periphery role with them and sort of helping them on certain aspects. They had to change the engine twice, just simply by making an art change. So that level of freedom, that level of planning, if you want to make your own games, you can do it. Engines like Unreal, engines like Unity, they will let you do that. And some of the greatest games that we've seen have been made, independently in engines, especially on the indie developer level. But you have to not just take it seriously from a technical skills perspective, but organization can matter a lot. And if you're not super organized or you're, very swayable when it comes to your gameplay decision making, you can end up down rabbit holes that will bottleneck your development. So, either have somebody who's great at organization or be that person yourself and find that focus on that specific topic, because it can sort of make or break your ability to get things done, and then later make or break your ability to make changes. If you have a fan base that loves your game, but there's something wrong and you can't keep up with your community and answer them, it can, hinder, even some of the best games.
Mm-hmm. What would you do, or what would someone do to overcome the challenges?
I've personally found that some things like programs like Asana and sort of, the management systems that are used by different developers can help. Part of it is being very clear on what people's roles are, just like, when you're working within, a team in esports, everybody has a role in team games, and it's usually very specific. Communication ends up being, a very big thing. And the keys to project management are clear communication. You do that in, even if you're working in a small team of even 3 people, having as good, clear, clean communication can get you through a lot of hurdles.
True. Well, that's it's a well-known in the project management industry that 90% of the project manager time would go with only communication to get things done. That's true. Okay. What other challenges, Nواف, do you see, like for developers or in the industry in general?
I think the only thing I think I've like seen just kind of like from knowing and like talking to a lot of indie developers is like one thing that they talk about constantly is the scope of the game itself.
Mhm.
Like actually, I've seen this firsthand with my older brother. He made he has been working on a game and the scope was too large, and it's been like 4 years and he just never actually finished it. But it's there. There's a playable build. You can play it, but it's not a full product. But at one point he was traveling. He came back he was like right when kind of quarantine started, and COVID kind of was spreading around. He came into Saudi. He was in the US and he was quarantined, I think, for around 20 days in a hotel. So around that time he was just bored and he had a laptop and he made a game, a first person like puzzle horror game where someone is stuck in a hotel and they try to figure out a puzzle and leave the hotel. So that was a very small scope, and he made it in less than like 20 days and published it kind of around that time by himself. And
Wow.
it was a free project. Like anyone can download it. Like if anyone wants, I can link it to them. And and you can and people actually donated a lot of money. It's through IO. It's a website where you can upload games in it. And that's just kind of like a personal thing that happened. And seeing him kind of realize scope is really important to manage a project, even though he was working on it by himself, made me realize like, man, like after talking to a lot of these developers for the past like 4 or 5 years, it really kind of goes down to just scope. Like you should limit yourself and know where are your strengths and where are your weaknesses and kind of focus on that until like you get a successful product out. And from there, when you get that successful product out, you can be more ambitious in the next project and the upcoming one.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think, like, COVID was, you just mentioned COVID-19. So the effect of COVID-19, do you think it was positive or negative on the industry?
I think it's both, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, because during that time, I've interviewed a lot of developers, like the director of Doom, the director of Ghost of Tsushima, the people behind like Deathloop, the upcoming game on the PlayStation 5. All of them kind of, I asked them that same question, like what would you do or what would you change if you knew that this is coming to you? And you knew that COVID was happening, what would you do? They're like, oh, I would have just kind of made everyone work from home earlier and kind of get around how can we transfer data and information and communication between one another. It really boils down to communication again. And so it's basically that. And they told us that they got better actually at communication and communicating with one another, and not just necessarily like the executive level, but even the executive kind of reached down to the lower, I shouldn't say lower, that feels bad. Like the other kind of employees, right? And they kind of communicated more with them on a daily basis. That can be annoying.
Operational level, let's say.
Yes. Yeah. It can be annoying, I guess, because you're constantly on communicating with others while in the office, like you had a task and you finish it, then you go ahead and talk to the others. So everyone just keeps saying that to me. Some of them, they're like, oh, I just miss interacting with people. That's really what I miss. And others would say, no, things move at a faster pace because we noticed that people actually ended up working more since they don't commute for an hour and a half, and they don't get tired from commuting every day, and they kind of work for extra hours because there's nothing for them to do other than just kind of committing to work and doing something. And if you're passionate about the work you're done, of course you're going to spend more time and work in the project that pays you to do whatever fantastic title you're working on.
Sure, that was great. Mohammed, what do you think challenges would face, maybe if you have a background on the developers or even the gamers? Like
about
like
the
if you
developer.
have a gamer within a team or an independent gamer, what challenges would they face and how they can overcome those challenges?
You talk about the gamers or about the game
developers and gamers, like probably you're gonna give us more insight about the challenges that facing the gamers, of course the developers as well.
Okay, let's start about the developers.
Okay, sure.
To be honest, I don't have that much experience, but what I think, it's the individual developer will face a lot of problems, okay, to compete at the high level. Let's say about CSGO game, or these games like Overwatch, or these hits games have a team of developer. Okay, so the individual developer, I don't know if he can reach something good, but maybe it's the campaign games mostly, and the campaign games is another category from the esport and about the games that I play. So that's what I think in my perspective about the gamers, what the challenging that they face, the community expectation. So the gamers see our culture and also our till now. Okay, if you tell someone it's my full job, it's a gamer or a professional player, they'll say, "Oh, go away." So this thing, the most we have to introduce the knowledge in our families and also in our region, so they can accept the esport thing like a football thing. If you ask your parents, "I want to be a football player," they will tell you, "No, let's go." But if you ask them, "I want to be a video game player," "No, stop, waste of time." So they're the most challenging things, and I personally face it. So like till 4 years after winning tournaments, all that rewards, they accept it. A bit accept. So they're the most challenging, and also the equipment for the player. It's high cost to have a good PC or a good PlayStation or PlayStation 5 to compete in the highest level. So that's another challenge for the gamers.
Amazing. Actually, you mentioned the thing that was 25 years ago when a kid asked his parents to go play football, or like we say soccer, he said the football game, they will refuse. They say, "No, you cannot go there. You either have to be like other professions." But today they are pushing them. They are very happy if they have a talented kid that can play football, because there is today we have a professional players. In the past, we didn't have the professional, like I would say, system or ecosystem. Today it's a different story. So now we can, accept professional players or gamers to be part of our family or part of our, which is, I think this is gonna be soon in the esport as well, because now we are accepting esport. We do have the Saudi Federation, so it's officially a thing today. It is a sport, and we do have the gamers with the awareness campaigns that like Gamers Without Borders, like initiatives through MCIT or other organizations. This will like increase or raise the awareness that will people and investors, like we're gonna have enthusiasts, and people will follow and watch. Also, we're gonna have the investors looking at this industry. That was great, actually. Okay, we'll move to a different subject now. Maybe we'll start with you, Nواف, about what are the proper steps to enter to the esport industry?
Again, like esport, I can answer like other things, but esport would be like kind of, I'm just going to talk about what I absorbed through osmosis of being around people that care about esport. It's just, as Muhammad said, like a lot of time playing video games, as silly as that sounds, it really boils down to that. And participate in your local tournament. I think if you do that and shine through there, then I'm sure that like teams like Oshtik Warriors would pick you up if you're really talented and really showed like an amazing game at a certain local event, and maybe stream that and kind of like, I think streaming, I don't know, Muhammad, maybe you can kind of join me on this. Do you care about like when people or players stream their games, and do you kind of notice them that way if they stream and they're really good at their Fortnite? And okay,
yeah, for sure, we scout player from streaming and also from their how they play in the tournament. We have scouters. They found these players, they have their own vision and their philosophy in the game. They will be good in the future. We pick them up. when they are not beginner, like intermediate
You mean
in the game.
like a
So
potential?
these
They have a
players,
potential.
we invest. Yeah, they have a huge potential. We invest on them. The invest sometimes go fastly, like 6 months, and we achieve our reward. And sometimes take 2 years.
Hmm.
So it depends about the character or the player.
I'm not sure if I answered your question fully, but I didn't think I was an expert enough to esport. So I just kind of throw that question to Muhammad.
Well, esport and video games. I mean, we are going to talk. Usually, we talk
Yeah, of
about both.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to, I would say, like, as a developer, definitely, you don't have to have a degree in computer science and know programming. You don't have to know that, but it would help. It would be actually a great asset to you to be a programmer. But as Bron mentioned, like a bunch of engines like Unreal and Unity, you can actually start like learning these engines without actually being a programmer at all. And there are a lot of YouTube tutorials. One can like actually go ahead and just kind of view them and understand how can you create, let's just say like a sandboxy-ish testy game. And from there, just by kind of like practicing and just making the game, you will kind of understand how the industry or how a game functions and what do you need to know, what blueprints do you need to have in Unreal and all that jazz. But definitely a degree is as important as knowing being a programmer. And when it comes to just kind of the side of journalism stuff, it really is about just putting yourself out there. You just kind of like talk about whatever you want and you know, make pieces about games you care about. Like there are a lot of this like it's a new kind of trend on YouTube, not necessarily a new trend, but there's such called video essays where people kind of analyze artistically these video games and why were they inspired by these titles and how were they inspired and what is so amazingly gravitating about these games. And you see a lot of talent. Like how can someone analyze like a game that is like what 4 hours long and they can spend like 30, 40, sometimes an hour just discussing what's so great about this game. And it's all about just create the content and like stand out in the middle of that. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of people making content about video games nowadays, even locally. So if you do that well enough, at one point you'll get recognized. And it's all about just kind of pushing through. Of course, do not let that kind of sidetrack you from living and trying to make a living. But if you're good enough and you keep going, you'll definitely land somewhere.
Sure, always you need to balance. Bron, what do you think about the proper steps to enter to the video game and esport industry?
I think it depends a lot on what you want to do. You know, if we look at esports as a whole, there's the player content creator side of things, and then there's also sort of the back end operational side. There are a lot of jobs for regular. I won't say regular. There are a lot of professions that are now needed in the global esports market. Lawyers, accountants, you know, marketing, graphic design, things that have nothing to do with the actual game, but are deeply connected to just running a business. And, you know, if you love the video game industry or love video games or love esports, but you don't have those skill sets, it doesn't necessarily mean there isn't an opportunity for you to be involved in that, to be connected to that, to still sort of advance that portion of the industry. So there is sort of that aspect. On sort of the more game related side and, you know, content creation, I think a lot of it has to do with, one, your particular focus. You know, if you're specifically trying to be a professional player, picking, you know, the game that you are the best at, as well as putting in the time. You know, there's a balance to be held, you know, depending on the esports team's focus. Some teams are not necessarily focused on top tier tournament results. If you look at something like a 100 Thieves, for example, there is a really heavy blend for them between their competitive rosters as well as their content creation, as well as being content creators for the platform. A player's ability to stream and pick up pretty big viewership increases their value to a sponsor. It increases the ways that they are perceived, you know, from a partnerships level. Maybe they can draw sponsorships on their own. Maybe they are, you know, the key point in a marketing deck that is being pushed by the company to get something. Maybe they're trying for, you know, a more ambitious collaboration, you know, or something that isn't necessarily connected to gaming. We've seen plenty of insurance companies get involved with esports based solely on their numbers and the fact that the general demographic is aging. You know, it's no longer necessarily 18 to 25. It's, you know, now anywhere from 16 to 35. You know, gamers are getting older. So what you bring to the table and sort of how you highlight that can help you get into the industry in a whole bunch of ways. For me personally, it was early stage commentary and just sort of bugging as many people as I could until I got a shot, and then going to events. I took an entire year off of college, worked as a waiter, and spent all of my money sending myself to events to meet people, to get, you know, deeper into the industry, to make more friends, to meet up with the people I've been commentating and talking to online, professional players, other commentators, other YouTubers. It was really just a matter of building that human connection, because the more people, you know, it's not always necessarily the, you know, who you know matters, but the more people you know, the more opportunities there are to collaborate on interesting projects.
More on that, that's kind of like how I started actually in the side of journalism. I used to write my own blog, then I kind of shoehorned myself into trade shows such as E3. Then I met the company I work for now there actually, and kind of talked to them. And from there, just meeting, it is kind of all boils down to like, there are lots of opportunities and you just really need to just catch them if you can. And that's how it is. Like, you just need to, you work really hard and try to be interesting. And then if you get an opportunity, just do not waste it.
Okay, Muhammad, let's get back to you again about the steps to enter to the esports industry and the video game in general. Like, is there certain stages, steps, maybe I would say knowledge to be acquired, skills? How could someone start from like hobby, you know, playing or developing to a profession? Maybe based on your experience.
I get it. See, in the beginning, before it's become the hobby, everyone are trying new things in his life. Like, someone play football, someone go for shopping, and someone just play video games.
Like passion, so we say, his passion?
Yeah, the place he's belong.
Okay, he found himself.
We can say it like that. Yeah, after it, it's become separate things. Some are, like say, some people want to play on the team or with the friends and having fun and just laughing all the time. And some players are playing with the team and having fun and they're competing all the time. So these two parts, let's say about the professional part, it's because it's in the future, inshallah, there will be a professional player. The other part, we will see them in the future like content creators maybe, or like Abu Falla or Banderetta, if you know these names. They are, let's say, super funny characters and super entertainment characters, and they will find them there basically. So this is what I think how they start, or where they will be in the future.
Amazing.
By the way, even the content creator things is a professional level, because it's not that easy to be a professional content creators on YouTube, on Twitch, and also on the streaming platform and social media platform.
So it's amazing how the industry is like other industries have always a value chain where each one will focus on one area and it will be interrelated with other. Wabron, how do you see this connection between all the professions within the industry?
It's pretty symbiotic. It also is very easy to transition once you're generally involved. You know, plenty of players have gone from player to commentator, especially players who were IGLs, in-game leaders. They take that knowledge. Plenty of developers also push this pretty hard. Overwatch has been well known for taking professional players from the Overwatch League and giving them commentary opportunities either in the Challenger level or the Overwatch World Cup over the last few years. Riot has been doing this for years to sort of bring professional players who are either at the top of their game or are, considering a transition into commentary, as well as coaching, as well as doing analysis work. I know a couple of Heroes of the Storm players who, after the game sort of internally collapsed, went and transitioned into management roles in the organizations they were playing for. One of the professional players for Dignitas's Heroes team is now working in their player development section. Mm-hmm. So, what you do in one step can advance you into other levels. Some people go content creator to professional. Some people go professional content creator. Some people go from commentary development. One of my co-commentators from a while back now works at ESL in a project management role. So he took, him being on stage, being involved in physical productions, and turned that into, I'm just going to go backstage and I'm going to run the event and design it. So, what you do can step from one place to another very, very quickly if you're willing to pick up new skill sets or utilize skill sets you may already have had that don't have anything to do with gaming. If you did it while you were in college, maybe there's an opportunity for you to take, a degree that you had and move it into something else, or something you've spent a lot of time working on, and video game, being a professional player or being involved in esports sort of popped up out of nowhere. You can always sort of ground yourself in, a different part.
Yeah. Nواف, based on what Bron just mentioned, and as Bron coming from like a mature market today and stable, comparing to the local market in Saudi, which is considered in the early phases or maybe in a growth stage today, how do you see this interconnection?
If anything, I feel like our market is growing at an extremely fast rate. Which is really cool to see, because it's been stagnant for years, and it's not even that far off. Just at around 2013, 2012, when I kind of started, there were not a lot of people cared about, voiced their opinion about games or cared about games. There was always a set of people that kind of did that, and everyone knows everyone. That was the area or the time I grew was working in. But now you can't even keep up with how many amount of players out there, from content creators, from professional players, and they're all doing amazing things, and they're all achieving greater things. And if anything, we recently learned that the spending of video game spending in the Saudi market passed $500 million last year, which is mind-boggling to think of. Back less than 15, 16 years ago, people used to buy pirated games to play video games. Sure. Now we are one of the largest markets worldwide. So if anything, that's just a sign that there's this capacity of people wanting to engage with interactive media more than anything. And I guess you can think of it too in a psychological level. It's a form of escapism, but maybe we shouldn't really delve too deep onto that.
Yeah, I agree. محمد, being a pro player today, and you founded Hoshtik, and today, mashallah, you are scoring so many tournaments and great advanced positions. How do you see the market today comparing to when you started?
When I started, there is no market, basically.
Right.
We started our passion. Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's great.
Today and specific this year, the market has growing incredible level. I can't expect what may will be next year and also the next 3 years, but for sure I'm gonna invest my time and also my money in this market, because it's a worthy market to invest, and also it's a huge market to be in, for a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, not only on the game, and a lot of things, like let's say about managing operation, all that things. Esports are, let's say, different. It's a bit of technology and a bit of physical things. So it's an interesting market for me, and a huge future that I expect of the esports. And,
tell us a little bit about. Yes, go ahead.
Trophies. Tell us about the trophies.
Trophies, yes.
About these trophies. Yeah, right. These trophies, like the Overwatch regional tournament, we won it in 2018. 2018.
It was like local or international?
And also, it's a regional.
Okay,
regional tournament.
Great.
And the other trophy is for Rainbow Six Siege team, and the smallest one for the Saudi League. And also we won it. We won 2 leagues, by the way, but there is no place for the third trophy.
Okay, you have the right to brag.
And yeah. And also we are planning for the next leagues, like Saudi League 2 will establish in 2 months, and we are prepared for winning more trophies, inshallah, and we get it.
Interesting. Great job, mashallah. Bron, I want to get back to you about the monetization tools in the video games. What are tools that someone could use to generate money or to monetize the whole, thing?
Yeah. There's a pretty wide variety depending on what you do. If you're streaming on Twitch, you're looking at, Twitch subscribers, YouTube, you're looking at super chat, but then there's sort of outside elements, simply because those require you to reach certain partnership levels. Just because you have, say, 25 viewers in your chat doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't possibly willing to spend to help you produce more content or to support your content. So there have been things like one of the more commonly used ones is Patreon, especially across a wide variety of content creators, especially those who might be making content that might irritate YouTube or irritate a developer who might not want it monetized. Nintendo's been very notorious for this over the years of, being very, they crack down a lot on people making content around Nintendo games. And so people have shifted to things like Patreon to use those platforms to be like, hey, support me over there, simply due to the fact that the YouTube AdSense algorithm isn't necessarily the best tool. When it comes to sort of the esports industry as a whole, this isn't really, something that people can use, but crowdfunding, depending on what you're doing, is really important. We've seen Matcherino be a really good platform for that out here for community organized tournaments just to help raise money. Partnering with them, there are opportunities for them to help sponsor events, which they love to sponsor small and local stuff. And then, people can donate $1 into the prize pool, $10 into the prize pool. And it can really build things up, especially during COVID when everybody's been stuck inside playing online matches. That's been sort of another big one. And then, the biggest crowdfunding example that we all like to use is Dota 2. If, you're unfamiliar with this, the Dota 2 International crowdfunds a massive amount of money off of selling, in-game skin merchandise. If you're, say, maybe a community developer and you make, t-shirts for your local tournament, maybe that's a way you can crowdfund. But Dota's been able to sort of take that model and really help cultivate their community into one that wants to support it, to a point where the prize pool for this year's Dota 2 International, being held in October and still climbing, is about $40 million US, which is massive. Granted, we won't get into the fact that too deeply into the fact that Valve is only putting 25% of what that crowdfunding is. So if you really think about that, 40 million times 4 is what the real amount of money being spent is. That's the true size of where the market is and how much people want to support this. But, that can kind of give you an idea of ways that games have been monetized, at least in the last, 5-10 years.
Amazing. Nواف, want to add something on this?
Can't really speak again, as I've mentioned multiple times, the esport level kind of thing, but it's just been fascinating to see how the monetization of video games have changed over the years, right?
Mhm.
Like it started like, hey, you just pay maybe around 200 riyals or like $60 and you'll get the game, right? And then from there, like, hey, we made an extra part of the game. Maybe if you like this game too much, you can buy it for another $15. Then, or now you can buy season passes for games. And just seeing like maintaining games is not cheap, and making games is not cheap. So developers, like, they're constantly in need of more cash in hand in order to make more games and maintain games too, such as Fortnite and other games. And to me, all I can say is just like it's really been a fascinating journey to see that happen from a regular model where you pay upfront and take the game and play it as much as you want, then kind of like, hey, you get the game by like you get extra parts of the game by paying a little amount of money, or you buy one game and you spend a lot of money in it, just like FIFA, for example. People spend a lot of money through that, and just to get like certain players, or to get to build a really good team. And that has been fascinating, but also like you don't see a decrease of people spending through these let's say microtransaction or transactions in general, because people are constantly buying the battle passes in or season passes in Fortnite and other games like Apex Legend too. And to see, companies are not going to like, they're just going to try to find more ways to make more money. And as long as the audience and players are committed or are wanting to support such games, they don't mind paying and supporting developers. So that's one way I think it's been really fascinating to see games and their monetization evolve through time.
Okay, interesting. What if I want to say or ask about the source of revenue in the video game or the esport industry? If we can list them, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. About the revenue, there is a lot of revenue stream that you can make it on esport. Let's take about individual player.
Mhm.
He can take it like a normal salary from his organization, and also let's say about the ads, he can make it, the advertisement, also the sponsorship. These most three things are affected with the revenue of the player, basically. And about the market, you will go about a lot of things: the publisher, the
Mhm.
let's say the
Tickets, maybe in
sponsorship,
events.
the training, a lot of tickets, events, a lot of things.
Okay, great. Is there also other sources, Bron, that you can add to the revenue sources that we are just mentioned?
Yeah, I think it's more about sort of the differences in partnerships. So, if you look at traditional esports partnerships and gaming partnerships, you're talking your energy drinks. Like it breaks down to a whole vast group of different categories that teams, tournament organizers will, go after. So you've got your Red Bulls, your Monsters, your energy drinks. You've got your PCs, keyboards, Logitech, Razer, the peripheral side. We've seen, car dealerships get involved. A lot of different car manufacturers have started to invest in esports. We've seen the Louis Vuitton League of Legends collaboration from 2 years ago with the World Championship was a really different collaboration because the average player isn't buying that, but you're getting a very different brand awareness and putting a skin into the game for Kiana, one of the League of Legends characters, in that Louis Vuitton outfit. There's a Louis Vuitton skin in a video game. Like that's a very out there, prospect that we've seen. State Farm monetizing the LCS desk as paid sponsorships, very similar to the way that we see it in big traditional sporting events.
Yeah.
These pieces are starting to break down where at minimum the people who sponsor and the products and the advertisers are starting to realize that the numbers are there for them to spend the money. And then that then becomes an avenue for the tournament organizer to invest very, very deeply in either user acquisition or partnership acquisition. And, the ticket sales, I actually think, are probably the one spot that esports still needs to step up. Like, tickets usually sell out very, very quickly for big stadium events. And obviously COVID has thrown all of that out the window. But once we sort of get back into that, how things get monetized, if you go to a football game, you're talking about a ticket, you're talking about food, you're talking about possibly buying player jerseys, apparel is sort of a big step forward for content creators and players, and creating more nuanced apparel has been a really big thing for esports teams to kind of, at least within the West, angling down the streetwear side of things, focusing on your Jordans and your Yeezys and the clothing that accompanies that sort of lifestyle. I actually think is ticket sales and sort of live events, as well as the apparel side, are two of the more interesting aspects of monetization that aren't just buying the jersey of your favorite player.
No, it looks promising though. I will take a question from the audience here. It says, how can I utilize my kids' time playing to generate money?
I'm not sure that's like ethical at all.
Yeah, like optimization, like they can use their time wisely and they can generate, income.
I don't know, make them into YouTubers? That sounds awful, man.
No, the question is about while they are playing, like turning this, time to something that they can benefit from.
I think if they're focused, if it's, my kid plays a lot of video games, how do they get more value out of it, or how do they get something that's discernible value?
Yeah, I guess so. That would be a one way.
That's a better way to ask the question.
Yeah.
Advocating content creation, even if it's bad. And what I mean by that is learning to video edit and learning how to do graphic editing and learning like those mechanical skills are usable in this industry and a ton of other industries. When I came up in esports, you had to know how to do everything. I can edit a graphic, I can run a video, I can run a stream, I can commentate it, I can run the bracket, because you just had to, because the systems weren't in place. Now you can, now there's more people involved in any one given project, but knowing what everybody has to do and having, the basic ability to be like, oh, this graphic is messed up, I'm going to throw it into Photoshop and change a number is, a really great skill. So if they're playing a lot of video games, help them record it and then help them learn to do a basic video edit. That learning that stuff via YouTube can be a great benefit, because that's a skill that's usable in a whole bunch of different things. And it'll still be fun for them.
I agree.
I'm sure they're gonna hate like spending time editing though. If they do like it, props for them.
Yeah, I'm trying here.
I will let them ask them to play in front of محمد. So anytime محمد can see them, they are good, we will take them to the team. That's great. Okay, we still have 2 minutes here. We'll take one more question. Is there any like organizations or schools that can support the talented skills here, or improving the skills of the users, even they are developers or gamers? Do we have any kind of organizations or academy or school to develop this skills?
Locally at the moment, there is a few academies, okay, but still it's not that much level. But globally, there is an academy, and you can. It's an online academy, basically.
Oh, so they can sign in online and
yeah. And also there is an local physical academy for esports also. They make a boot camp each summer for 1 month, and there is a global team make this type of academy. So this is and about the other type of categories that you said. I think there is, for developing game, there is the government are supporting that things for developing games, but I don't remember the specific name of the قبل
Yeah,
ما
like a sort of initiative thing from من هيئة الاتصالات بس الاسم صراحة مو جاي في بالي بس في أشياء زي
Yeah,
كذا
they
يعني ندخل
have,
الحساب.
there is an initiative from MCIT, which is, and ThinkTech about develop it and play it. صممها والعبها, or design it and play it. I think it's on Twitter and hashtag, they can find that. Okay, I think we are almost at the time. So we'll, in a quick minute, anyone would add, you know, like a final tip or want to wrap up, you know, any kind of information.
If anything, I just find it very exciting that, you know, things like Gamers Without Borders exist. It just gives opportunity to kind of like spread awareness about video games and how like that esport as a thing is like people can make a living out of that. And there are other venues within gaming that is not just like just esport. There are esport. There is kind of the field that what I'm doing where it comes to like covering video games and writing things about them. And then you go to the world of esport and delve deep. We got like a professional. No, you got a team creator here, and we have like a Braun as a huge commentator, and so there are a lot of opportunities to create like a, you know, I don't know, a huge economy with it for this country, and it would be wonderful to see that flourish and get bigger as time goes through.
Great, thanks, Braun. Want to add in a second?
Sort of I guess a final note would be watching the esports industry out in the West develop and sort of being a part of that. And, you know, I spent a little bit of time in Riyadh, you know, learning a little bit about what was going on in Saudi and wanting to help build it, and seeing the level of advancement that the region can sort of step into now that we've kind of hammered out a bunch of issues over here. It's really cool to see another region develop sort of with more tools. You know, the speed at which things grow only increases, and the opportunities sort of well outweigh the pitfalls, in my opinion. So I'm just excited to see more of the global esport, you know, communities sort of start coming together. And so it's not just, you know, the West versus the East, you know, Europe versus Korea. You know, the more we get out of parts of the Middle East, you know, parts of India, parts of Africa, you know, there's a whole bunch of people who've never been involved in the industry, and, you know, who knows what great players out there, what great commentator, what, you know, what great innovators out there to sort of take the industry to the next level.
Awesome. محمد, in 10 seconds.
Thank you very much for this invitation. Have a great time, guys.
Great. Well, at the end of this, I would love to thank you, Braun, Muhammad, and Nواف, for the amazing actually meetup. It was really enriching and excited as well. And from my side, this is Bاسم المحمدي from Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. Wish you a pleasant night and stay safe, and goodbye.
Bye.